Danny Lee, DOC number is 353750. You're classified as a third felony offender. You're here this afternoon seeking a commutation of your sentence. You were sentenced in St. Mary Parish, May of 1995 for a second-degree murder conviction, and you received a life sentence. Is that information correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Mr. Mandela.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Mr. Lee, my name is Tony Marabella. I'll be, your case was assigned to me, so I'll start the question, okay? Mr. Lee, how old are you, sir?
I'm 51 right now.
How long have you been in prison on these charges?
Close to 28 years now.
Tell me a little bit about, I know you're probably nervous. I hear you breathing kind of heavy. And I understand you've got some medical issues. Tell me a little bit about your medical issues.
I've been dealing with some liver issues. I had hepatitis, and it's just, they say they've gotten rid of it, but you know, they keep bringing me back for tests, you know, to make sure it's not hardening up on me.
You take medication?
Yes, sir.
Are you able to function? Are you able to work?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. It doesn't really, at this point, it's not affecting my daily life, you know, as far as work and stuff like that goes.
Mr. Lee, you've been in prison for approximately 28 years. And I look at your record. You've got an extraordinary criminal record. You started out at a very young age. Tell me what all going on with you when you were young.
When I was younger, I come from a poor background, and I had no structure to myself. And unfortunately, that moved along with me into my later teens, and I didn't realize it at the time, but that I needed something to really give me a direction.
Drugs or alcohol involved in your child?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes,
what
sir.
kind of drugs did you use?
Mainly marijuana, and then it got into heavier crystal meth, and it got to a point where it was pretty bad. It had a hold of me. I didn't have a hold of it.
At the time this offense occurred, were you using meth at the time?
Yes, sir.
Tell me about what happened. I read the report, but tell me in your own words what you remember happened and how it is that Sheila Tibbles was killed.
We were really just trying to get to Florida, and all of us were doing drugs, and just, it was not really a conflict of character. It was just aggravating with each other. All, you know, the further we got, the harder it was to just get along with each other, because we're all doing basically the same thing, but we were all going in different directions, you know. And
Was everybody on drugs?
yes, sir.
Let's talk a little bit about what you've done while you've been in prison. I see you've taken a number of programs. You've taken Thinking for Change. How
Yes,
did that
sir.
help?
It's helped me realize that when things start getting to a point where they seem like they're unmanageable, you can stop yourself. You can say, wait a minute, you know, you can back up and really think things through instead of reacting. You know, you can, that's my main thing from it is that I don't have to react right off. I can stop and make a game plan for myself. If there's a confrontation with someone, the easiest thing is to walk off. You can regroup with it later on, once you get a plan down.
And I see you've taken a number of substance abuse programs. You've taken Living in Balance. You're a sober group member for 20 years. Tell me what sober group is. What does that mean?
Sober group to me is a foundation. It's a foundation that when I feel myself starting to slide, when I feel myself needing to anchor on to something, I will get a hold of one of these guys and we'll talk. It helps me come back into grips with what I've got and what I have accomplished to this point.
Let me ask you this, with that mindset, I guess, with that foundation, what is your plan to stay sober if you're ever released? How are you going to stay away from meth or alcohol or marijuana or any other drugs that might be out there?
I really enjoy doing the work that I do. But to me, whether I'm in here or I'm out there, I will be an active member of a sober group. I will not only try to pass that knowledge on that I've learned, but it's something that you don't get over it. It's for life.
And you've also taken victim awareness. Talk to me a little bit about what you've learned in awareness.
Well, victims awareness it helped me so much in seeing the other side, what those people are going through. And it was a very good class. But I never knew the full impact of it until I had the victim offender dialogue with Mr. Les. And that was when it really impacted my life that day.
When did that take place? About how long ago?
It's been close to 3 years ago now. It may be a little longer, I want to say.
How did it affect you? Tell me how that dialogue with Mr. Tibbles affected you.
When up to that point, we all want to do better. We all hope to be able to become better. But until that day when Mr. Les told me that he forgave me, I never realized that I'd never forgiven myself. And it was a monster step for me. It's something that I wish I could talk more to that man. He really had an effect on me.
Mr. Lee, you've been in prison 28 years. You've had 13 write-ups. Your last write-up was in 2016. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Now, I understand that you're working with the Parole Project, the Louisiana Parole Project. You've been in contact with them. Is that someplace you hope to be when, if you're ever released?
Yes, sir. That's the only place I really want to get out and go to. If I got to stay extra months or whatever until they have an opening, then that's fine with me.
What do you hope to do there? What do you understand will be your role if you get out and go to the Louisiana Parole Project?
Well, it's my understanding that they'll help me reintegrate with society. But not only that, they do things for the community, and maybe I'll be able to find a niche to get in where I can help some too.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Warden, can you tell us anything about Mr. Lee?
Yes, sir. First, you had spoken about his medical history, and I've got something from medical here that states that he does have a past history of asthma and was treated for hepatitis with stage 3 fibrosis. And he does require lab work and an ultrasound of his abdomen every 6 months, and that's just where they're following his liver disease. So that is the issue of him returning to medical. Rarely makes any sick calls, and despite all of that, he currently does have a regular duty status. He has no restrictions as far as work. Danny has done maintenance here for a long time, and most recently, we had an opening at our boat shed, and this is an area where there's very little supervision. He is responsible for maintaining our chase boat fleet, making sure that they're in good operating order. So this is a job, as far as for an offender, that is a highly trusted job just because of the nature of it. And he's, again, done a good job for us in that in the short time that he's been there. But again, it takes a while for somebody to get to that point, and he's gotten there.
Thank you, Warden. I appreciate your comments. Madam Chairman, that's all the questions I have.
Thank you, Ms. Marabella. All right, thank you. We'd like to hear from Mr. Les now, please, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay, my name's Les Tibbles, Sheila Tibbles' dad. I talked with my son before connecting, and he's in agreement. This was a tough period of time before the interception of the letter and the beginning of the mediation. It was a tough time for Diane, my son, and myself. I was hesitant at first, and I didn't. Once Daryl and Wilbur started telling me that Mr. Lee was cooperating, demonstrating sincere remorse in their opinion, I didn't want to hear that. I was on a job. I didn't have time for it. This is contrary to everything I believe. As time went on, my opinion changed. Their reports back and how consistent everything was going, they tried to trap them. You know, I don't know what the procedures are. I tried to ask, but they weren't going to share it with me. But they'll go to a point at one visit and then come back a couple other visits and bring that point back up in a different way to try to trap people or to try to find inconsistencies or, you know, to get a good objective overview of the over a year and a half they were involved in this. Eventually, I just had to see for myself. So I did. You all gave me the opportunity to visit a few years back. And Danny never broke eye contact for 20 minutes. He was, in my opinion, sincere. And coupled with what you all have gone over this morning or this afternoon, and what was conveyed to me through Daryl and Wilbur, I I believe the man needs a chance. I think he's grown considerably under y'all's care. I think he's got a soul. I think I guess you could say, a God-fearing man and a changed man. I believe he deserves an opportunity to work and provide for others and maybe teach. He's got a vast store of knowledge in both his line of work and his experiences. He could be a positive influence on others. I believe he deserves an opportunity to get to know his daughter. And his grandkids. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tibbles, you and your son for being a part of this process. Thank you so much. Warden Benoit. I think you're still on mute.
Good morning. I wanted to call in. I've known Danny just about his entire time he was incarcerated. He worked very hard to get to where he's at. I think he has changed from the man that first entered the gates of Angola till now. He's very talented, skill wise, and I think he's worked hard to take advantage of everything that all the programs, self-help programs that Angola's had to offer him. And thank y'all for letting me tune in this morning.
Yes, sir. Thank you. As always, good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. All right, Mr. Lee, is there a statement you'd like to make to wrap it up for us?
There's nothing I can do to change what I've done to Mr. Les and his family or my family. All I can do is just try to make it better from now on. I mean, I've tried, and I'm rather kind of proud of myself for what I've done. I just like to have that opportunity to show them that they can rely on me.
All right, sir. Thank you. Yes, sir. We are prepared to vote. We'll start with Mr. Marabella.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. First off, I'd like to say to Mr. Tibbles, that was an extraordinary show of compassion and courage to come to us today and to tell us what you've told us. I appreciate your willingness to go through the victim offender dialogue. And in this case, I think it's healed a lot. So, Tibbles, and to your son, thank you so much for being here today. Mr. Lee, you have clearly shown that you're not the same person that you were before. You've taken some excellent approaches. You've got a good plan once you are released. You've been in a sober group for 20 years. Your plan to stay sober continues to be that. You've taken some of the best courses we have, Thinking for a Change, victim awareness. You've taken the 100 hours of pre-release. Excellent comments from both wardens. And of course, had I not been willing to vote the way I'm about to vote, certainly Mr. Tibbles throws it over any line. What he's done, how he's forgiven you, how both of you have healed has been marvelous for me to observe, even though it's a very sad situation that brings everyone here to the table. So Based upon all of those things, it would be my vote to recommend to the governor that he commute your sentence to 99 years and immediate parole eligibility. I'm one vote for 5, so good luck to you.
Mr. Freeman?
I want to echo what Mr. Marabella said. The victim's statement just, it crushed me listening to it, and it really made me feel that some people can forgive and move on. And I really appreciate the way that he had enough courage to stand up and back you on this request for pardon. And I also vote to grant the pardon and commute the sentence to 99 years with immediate parole.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Jackson?
Likewise, I agree with everything my colleagues have said, Mr. Lee. Reconciliation is a wonderful thing. It helps both parties, and I'm glad that that was achieved in this case. You've earned consideration, you've worked hard, you have an outstanding institutional record, and Warden Benoit speaks well of you. So my vote today would be to recommend commutation of the sentence to 99 years with immediate parole eligibility. Good luck to you, Ms. Lee.
Mr. Roche?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Lee, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm just simply going to echo the words of everyone else and cast their vote before me. Job well done. When you get 2 positive recommendations, 2 wardens, make something right. My vote is to commute the sentence to 99 years with immediate parole eligibility.
All right, Mr. Lee. Danny Lee, I agree with my colleagues based on the hard work that you've done to rehabilitate yourself, service to others. My vote today is the same. So on your behalf, sir, we're going to make the recommendation to Governor Edwards that your sentence be commuted to 99 years and that you be immediately parole eligible. Good luck to you, sir. Thank you so much, Mr. Tipples, for joining us today. Warden Fowler, we're going to take a little recess for just a few minutes before the next case.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so let's unpack this. A few things to start with. One, it is very rare that we see a family member do that. I think that's way above anything I would be able to do. Those of you who needed to hear something like that, I'm glad that you're able to see it too. Is that I do believe that Danny Ray Lee passed away actually March 14th, which is 13 days ago from the time of this recording, which is March 27, 2024. I just see a copy of his obituary. You know, Richard did this research quite some time ago. I decided to Google his name to see if he was, if he's out. And this is the obituary. It doesn't say anything except that he passed away in Texas. And that's it. There's nothing else. There's nothing written about him. We can go into his crime, which actually has quite a bit of detail. So let's jump into it. And I guess you can say how you feel about what happened, but it did start on a road trip. And their goal was to actually visit all 50 states. It did not work out the way they planned. Instead, he gets to spend, instead of seeing America, he gets to spend basically his life in Angola. That is not the kind of road trip movie that I'm sure he had in mind for himself. But the factual background. On April 5th, 1995, petitioner Danny Ray Lee was found guilty of second-degree red rum in the death of Sheila Tiblis. Now, according to testimony at Lee's trial in August of 1994, Lee and Tiblis set out on a road trip from Oklahoma with a married couple, Davy and Sherry Koslow, intending to visit every state in the country. So it seems a married couple and a non-married couple are going on a perfectly innocent, awesome road trip. I mean, that just sounds like a great way to kick off spring, right? Now, at a stop in the sugarcane field in St. Mary Parish, Louisiana, Tiblis was murdered. A sugarcane field, out of all places. Allegedly because she was thought to have given information about Lee's involvement in drug dealing to police in Oklahoma. It's like so stupid. What a senseless crime. According to Koslow's testimony, Lee told Koslow when they were in the field that he was planning to kill her. Koslow testified that Lee brought Tiblis from the car into the middle of the field and began choking her. Lee then asked Koslow for his knife and told Koslow to cut Tiblis' throat. When Koslow could not bring himself to do so, Lee took the knife from Koslow and stabbed her in the throat himself. That is so violent, so personal, and so brutal. You take your friend who you're on a road trip with into the field and you choke and put a knife in her neck. And, frankly, when you hear the way that he talks about the crime, what was it? We were all doing drugs. We were all going our separate ways. Like, as if like it was an afterthought. Not that he brutally, mercilessly took this young woman's life in just a vicious way. And when you read these things, it's like, but they wanted to let him out. He's very expensive for the system, end of life stuff. Angola is a publicly traded entity that's about profit. There's a reason there's legislation that tries to get these type of end of life criminals out of the system. Just keep that in mind before we think about anything else, right? Although, to be fair, it is extremely rare to have two wardens come and speak on someone's behalf. Although, again, those wardens did report to shareholders at one point, I would imagine. But that's neither here nor there. Let's not be skeptical. Let's just assume that this was the right thing to do. Then they covered her body with a piece of tin and left it in the field. The three remaining members of the party continued on their trip, financing their travel with forged belongings to Tiblis. So it's my understanding that her own husband took part in killing his wife in some sense. It wasn't his wife, but it was, it's just crazy. After they returned, so they eventually returned to Oklahoma. There goes their 50-state tour, right? After the return and still using Tiblis's car, the group was pulled over for a traffic violation. Lee was arrested for driving without a license, and Costa was arrested for having the devil's lettuce. According to later testimony, he told police that the devil's lettuce found in the car belonged to him, and even though it belonged to his wife, Sherry, and another woman in the car at the time of the traffic stop were released. So it wasn't his. Oh, so it wasn't his wife. It was his girl. It was Danny's girlfriend, I guess, or just a friend. Shortly afterwards, Sherry contacted police about Tiblis's red rum. At her suggestion, police spoke with Koslow, who told the police that Lee had taken her life and directed them directed him to her body. Sherry and Koslow were also arrested for the red rum. So the preliminary hearing on November. So that's the act, basically. I don't know. They're kind of two couples going on a road trip, and all of a sudden he gets paranoid, like that she told the police he's drug dealing. It's so ridiculous, the whole thing. It's like you're literally traveling the country. This is in the 1990s. They're gonna go and find like it's so stupid. So let me just go and kill her, and that's what they did. And it's just there's no amount of devil's lettuce that would make anyone do something like that. But he did get life in prison, so there you go. Now, the preliminary hearing, November 9th, 1994, Judge Thomas oversaw a preliminary hearing to perpetuate the testimony of Sherry in Louisiana District Court. At the hearing, Davy was represented by a public defender. In late testimony, claimed that as part of the preparation for the hearing, he asked about whether anyone in the group had used narcotics at any point during the trip, which they responded that they had. According to Costello, Colbert suggested that if asked about the narcotics in court, Costello should downplay it. Although later disputed this account, they also discussed possible sentencing, even if Costello pleaded guilty to accessory after the fact. It appears that Colbert talked to Costello, I feel like I'm pronouncing Costello wrong, for no longer than an hour before the preliminary hearing. And hearing for Sherry testified that she saw Lee strangle Tiblis and heard him ask Stevie for his knife. She also admitted that she turned away from the murder. The detective testified that she had told him earlier that she saw her husband with the knife, but did not see who stabbed her. So I guess they're saying who did it, right? I'm not going to go through all of this. I'll put the link in the description, but it is one of the better documented appeals. He took the stand. They talk about the cross-examination. I like all that, but I don't want to. I feel like we're just not invested enough in the story to go through all of it in detail. According to this old article, Richard found Sherry, his wife, was not charged with anything, it seems. And maybe they just had to deal with her. If she would testify, they won't charge her. But I mean, she was there, so could have easily gone another way for her. But how do you? I mean, it's so interesting. You see these cases, for me at least, and it just, when I first watched it, it was like, hey, things happen, great, and then you read the details, and I'm just like, how can someone do that? And he looks healthy in this picture, but liver failure is very real. And he passed away just this month, a couple years after his release, I suppose. He was released. Yep. But how do you feel about it? With that, I'll let you go.